seen on social media you've been making a run, man. You've been going in the right direction, losing it. What's your stats right now? What's the measuring tape right now?
I'm in the 275 range. Okay. At one point, I had blew up, and the first couple of years I went the wrong way, a long way. So eventually I ended up at one point losing from the highest I've been since I've retired, I ended up losing 85 pounds. Ooh. So yeah, I had started having to deal with the blood pressure medicine and all types of stuff. So I had my little bit of a scare. So I figured it was time to get things on the right track again. And I told myself I worked too hard to all those years playing football to now not be able to enjoy it. So I had to start making better choices eating and get back to doing cardio. I don't really mess with weights too often. Really, not at all, honestly. I probably can count on one hand the number of times I've lifted weights since I've retired. So it's pretty much just been cardio and eating better. As a player, I could always lose weight fast, which I'm sure both of y'all know. And then at the same time, though, I could always gain it back fast. So, I think the biggest difference now is I've committed to eating better and, I'm doing the cardio and stuff. But now when I eat better and stuff, I'm not putting the weight back on, equaling it out or even, still gaining weight.
Yeah, that's always the big thing is that exchange, right? Because, I always say we ain't got no problem putting the output, you know what I'm saying? Even just being big dudes, to run and hit these times. I was looking at somebody's conditioning test, they were doing 150-yard repeats or something. I was like, the times is still 24 seconds for linemen? That's crazy. But so the output ain't never been a problem. It's always the input. So has that been the biggest hack for you to just marry it up together to, like you said, to make sure that you don't go out there and run for an hour, but then just beat it up with the calories 20 minutes later?
Yeah, that's been a huge difference. For a long period of time, I just ate fish and vegetables during that time period when I lost a lot of that weight. That's all I was really eating. And cutting back on the sugar and carbs, it did wonders for me. So now I've eased back into enjoying some things, but usually if I eat bad, I feel guilty and I want to go downstairs and get on the elliptical or whatever. So like you said, it's about making the sacrifice because I know I could get it back quick. It's been a goal of mine to lose the weight, but I know the hard part is keeping it off. I didn't want to be the guy that lost it and then had to come back a year or two later and lose it again. I don't want to go down that road. So that's what's motivating me. Hopefully I can keep it going. Hopefully, cardio and things like that will still be easy for me to do to deal with the pain our body goes through from playing football. So, I think that's a huge reason of why I don't, like to deal with weights too much. Is just because make sure I don't want to be too sore the next day or too beat up.
Yeah, that was the question I was going to ask you when you said you don't deal with weights, and I hear a lot of guys say that, and myself personally, the last thing I really want to do is walk in a weight room. You know what I'm saying? So why do you think that after you finish playing, guys are so hesitant to even want to deal with weights or anything like that? Or you could just speak for yourself personally.
I worry about my joints and things like that. Just the stress that it's putting on the joints, and let's be honest. I'm not out to. I didn't do this to go out to win the Mr. Universe contest or anything like that. That doesn't motivate me or anything. So, I just the best way to explain it is I just care about how my body feels, and I know health-wise, blood pressure-wise, and things like that. The cardio and stuff will give me enough, and then I don't have to worry about the aches and pains of my joints. So. It's just, my main goal is just to make sure I stay as healthy as possible. And, the main thing I know I picked up on when I lost weight, when I hadn't been this weight since I was in high school, is how much, overall my body felt, how much more energy I felt. It used to be before I lost the weight, when I was in the over 3+, I would eat and then I would always be sleepy and sluggish. Once I started losing weight, I realized that, I could eat and then go do whatever. And I didn't have that feeling anymore. So, that's been key. But, I don't know. Who knows? One day maybe I'll change my mind about weights, but as of right now, I don't see it happening.
For the most part, yeah, that's always the funny thing. We hear guys who have always just been big, strong dudes. The last thing they say is like, "Man, I ain't lifting no weights." What's the weapon of choice? You said cardio, so is it just like that slow, steady? Are you a walker? Are you an elliptical guy? You a hit workout guy like burpees? What's the weapon of choice?
No, I've just been mainly for the most part elliptical. You know, I've during this time period, purchased an elliptical. You know, if I feel like I'm getting too sore from that, then I may go outside in the neighborhood and just walk. You know, I've jogged sometimes, but usually I notice jogging ends up the next day, my back is hurting. So, you know, that rarely happens now. And, you know, my wife just, for Father's Day, bought me a Peloton. So I'm excited to try that out.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I'll go outside and get on the bike, but, I have a bike, I'll go outside on that sometimes. So, you know, I'm excited to try the Peloton. I've heard good things about it. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, there's a group of dudes, former guys. I think like Spice is on, Anthony Adams, Cole Kubelik, he's the SEC dude. Like there's a group, George Foster. There's a group of like 5 to 10 of them. They all link up their Peloton accounts and they like compete against each other every morning. Like, you know, everybody using technology, like you said, trying to get smarter with it. You know, putting their watches, syncing their watches in, internally using that as motivation to get, you know, because when I see Foster all the time saying, man, I see Spice already got it in today. I got to get it, you know. So, and that's what we know. We know accountability like that.
It's funny you say that because one of the things that did motivate me, you know, when I had an accident where basically it had something to do with my blood pressure. Okay. So I had a friend of mine that, you know, he actually went to Michigan State. You know, we played together with the Jets. That next day, he called me. He was like, all right, Jay, you got to get on it. He told me, he was like, which I had an Apple Watch forever. And I didn't know you could link them up or whatever and see each other's workouts. So he's like, I'm going to send you my info and I'm going to be on you. So what you just said, just having that guy that's been through the same thing and, you know, making you accountable, that was huge. So I ended up getting, you know, a couple of other teammates on it, a couple friends from high school. I have a cousin that, you know, he saw me post about it on Facebook about me losing weight. He got motivated. He's lost probably a similar amount of weight. And every day, every night, his watch is going. I mean, my watch is going off with a notification to him. And if I hadn't gotten it in, like at that point, it makes me want to get up and go. And so you're right. It does make a huge difference. You know, just I think it kind of makes us feel like we. Almost like you back in the locker room, and you got that same bond and relationship that you had back there. So that I'm glad you brought that up, Lason, because that was a huge part of getting me going.
For sure, and I think that's why, like, I think for us it's always different because I mean I got a perfect example. Like, you know, in your household, everybody know you're an athlete, you big, but like, you know, your wife or somebody be like, man, you've been working real hard. You like, nah, I need to. You know, they hit me with it. Yeah. You need to take a day off. You know, I'm like, nah, I know what that means. We gotta keep progressing. But that's why I think we gotta know ourselves, no different than, you know what type of offensive lineman we're. Am I more of a pulling center? Am I more of a power guy? Like, you gotta know who you are and what motivates you. And I think that's why getting, you know, whether we use technology or whatever to hold ourselves accountable. Because even like in our little group chat, like, you know, everybody had to post their weight. And then you saw some guys' weights, you like, man, I didn't know you was that big dog. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But we ain't going to let you slide. We going to call you out and be like, man, you looking fat, man. You got to, you know what I'm saying? But you couldn't do that in fitness or anything. So I think it always comes back to like that football self-scouting deal, like knowing who you are. So the big thing you said with eating, so you found your combination was the fish and the vegetables. You just didn't try to deviate from that. So was it just strictly like grilled fish? Was it?
Yeah, definitely grill. I didn't no fried foods or anything like that. So, you know, one thing I did find, like my wife found me like this garlic and ranch seasoning, and you know I'm a garlic person. I know many people aren't. So, you know, with the vegetables and stuff, sometimes I would just put that on there after the vegetables was cooked. Even sometimes when they were being cooked, I would just put that on there. I would even take it to restaurants. Yeah, so that helped. I mean, water, you know, I started drinking a lot of water, a lot more water, Powerade Zero, you know, and, you know, I just got in the groove. And some like going to restaurants sometimes, you know, the little Mio type water flavor things, you know, if I was a little tired of water, I would just take one of those with me, or, you know, I use those sometimes just to give me some flavor. So, you know, I had to lock in, and the big thing I noticed once I started to see progress, like that motivated me even more. It really, you know, some people, you know, when people want to get started on diets, they want to see results right away. Yeah. When they don't get that, they get discouraged. Mm-hmm. I promise you, once you start to see those results, like it does something mentally that just motivates you even more.
For sure. You got your kids around. How's been this deal with you? Because a lot of times, you know, dad's trying to eat right, but the kids still like, nah, we still need snacks. You know, have they been kind of like joining along the journey with you? Has it been?
No, that's a tough part. Getting the family to join the journey, and you know, my oldest son is a real picky eater, so that makes things tough. He loves Chick-fil-A, and things like that, like to the point where, even though I was dieting, I was taking him to Chick-fil-A so much, I got sick of seeing him eat Chick-fil-A, so I got sick of it. So I guess it kind of helped. But yeah, they you know, my oldest son, he you know, I just recently took him to a physical, to have a physical for hopefully the upcoming football season, and his resting heart rate was so low, I had to go. The nurse wouldn't pass him on the physical, so he had to go get an EKG and stuff just to make sure things were in shape. And I mean, things were okay with him, but I guess he's supposedly so in shape, his resting heart rate is lower than normal. So, you know, I told him I never in a million years I ever had that problem. So he'll be 15 at the end of July. He's walking around all cut up, feeling himself and things like that. But, you know, he could eat whatever and not gain any fat or anything. So, like I said, Pops never had that problem. My 12-year-old, he's, you know, he was a little chunky, but now he's gotten taller and slimming out. So, you know, they don't seem to have my big bone genes or whatever you want to call it. So, you know, they eat whatever they want. They haven't been helpful at all. But, you know, it's just part of me knowing that I got to, you know, mentally be stronger. And you know, as both you guys know, y'all been through it. You know, we football players, we have a different – we have another level, in my opinion, of being mentally tough. You know, we've been through a lot. So I think once you can tap into that and get locked in, then, you know, we're fine regardless of what we got going on around us.
So that was one of my questions as he was talking. Like, so what did Jay Goody look like when he was 15 or 12? Like, what was your was you always big Jonathan, Big Jay, Big Goody? Was that always your nicknames?
Yeah, I was always Big J. You know, I have pictures, you know, when I was in the 7th grade, I was already like 6'2", 6'3", so I was a little bit more tall and slender. You know, to this day, I'm still 6'3". So, you know, after 7th grade, I just started putting on more and more weight. So I've always, you know, I was always considered big because of, you know, being taller. But then, you know, I stopped growing and the weight started coming on. So for the most part, I've always been Big J.
So even though you had this bigger size coming up in school, was there a time when you realized, like, man, I'm out here doing some stuff big guys ain't supposed to be doing? Like, was you like on the track team running the 100 meters? Was you running the point guard?
Well, I played, you know, even throughout high school, I played basketball and baseball. And it's funny, you know, to go along with, you know, your question, you know, the first time I dunked the basketball was in the 7th grade. So, you know, on a 10-foot rim. So, you know, and doing things like that, and, you know, baseball was actually my favorite sport all throughout high school, but football, you know, provided a scholarship, so, you know, I had to play football. But, you know, I had you know, my older brother went to Michigan, and he was a pretty good offensive lineman, was always, you know, pretty athletic guy. You know, I don't know if it was the, you know, the little brother looking up at the big brother, thinking he's going to be better than the big brother. I always felt like I was the better athlete. you know, when we were at similar ages, you know, even though he was older. But, you know, that just always motivated me. And then when I saw the success he had, you know, it just kind of, you know, let me know that, hey, it's possible. It's possible if I work and, you know, grind and just do the right things.
That's the one thing about like football and grinding and being successful. Like you always get rewarded with food. It doesn't matter what it is. So do you think that's something that maybe kind of sets you up, sets us up? Because regardless if you play good, play bad, you know, have a great day, you're going to eat at the end of that workout. You're going to eat at the end of that game. You're going to eat at the end of that banquet. Is that something, because there's such a constant that carrot and the stick deal? Is there, you think that's one of the things?
I mean, because, you know, every guy that can make it through a football season, especially when you hit the college level, even sometimes high school level, all the stuff you do to train for football, the mental rigors of it, you know, to get through a football season, regardless of how much you play, if you can get through a football season, you're a special person. And I don't just say that just because I'm a former football player. You know, we've all been there. You know, whether you are a third team player, second team player, first team player, whatever, it takes a lot to get through a football season mentally. Yeah. And, you know, I just think it's, in a lot of ways, it can set you up for, you know, some of the situations that you see later on in life. So I think it does give us an advantage. And, you know, especially if we apply ourselves the right way, you know, I think, you know, football prepares us mentally in a lot of ways that people who don't play football don't understand.
We always talk about like the culture shock when you go to college, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times it's the first time you get, you know, your own room, or you get that meal card, and you get, you know, I know every day I got 3 meals waiting for me and some bonus bucks. Yeah. So you went the opposite. You went from the South to the North. How was there a big culture shock, like food wise, when you went up there to school? Like, man, this ain't, you know, this ain't South Carolina, man. You know, man, why y'all eating that, man? What's that? Was there food wise?
You know, off the top of my head, I can't necessarily think of, you know, I think I saw probably less soul food in, you know, up north. You know, maybe it was just because, you know, I was pretty much on the college campus, like you said, eating the free meals that was provided to us, and, you know, the training tables that we had. And, you know, it was, we had these things called chips that we could go use at certain restaurants. And, you know, Outback was one of those restaurants. So we used to, you know, kill that. But, the biggest thing I had to deal with for going from the South to North was the weather. You know, being a big guy, I knew I was going to get the stomach, you know, filled with food. But, you know, I would say the biggest thing that, you know, I had less soul food, less of, you know, the types of foods that my grandmother would prepare.
So even though you was getting ready, was it kind of like, did you gain on more weight your freshman year because you was getting ready for the college? Like, man, I need to.
No, I mean, so when I actually got to Michigan, I was actually overweight. I kind of chilled the whole summer before. So I get there and, you know, not knowing any better, you know, at the time, then I remember getting on the scale, and our strength and conditioning coach was named Mike Gilderson. So I didn't know beforehand, but, you know, when I was at Michigan, none of the linemen were allowed to be over 300 pounds. I think I may have weighed in at like 308. So my first couple, you know, and then my first year at Michigan, our first 2 days were like all first year players, and we had like 3 days. And then when the upperclassmen got there, we had to run our conditioning test, and it was a mile and a half. So, you know, I had basically 2 days or 3 days, and then I, you know, being overweight, because, you know, I probably in high school, you know, I'm guessing the heaviest, so it was like 290. So I had that, and then I had to run the mile and a half test, and I'll never forget it because I was the last guy to finish. You know, my time was like 18 minutes and things, and whereas John Jansen was a senior lineman on that team, and he ran it, I think, in like 11 minutes. So, you know, that was my introduction. So I had to lose weight right away, and just to show you how, you know, that next year I ran the mile and a half in like 12 minutes. So, just being there and, losing the weight and training the right way, that just made a huge difference. But, my first getting there, I had to lose weight, because, like I said, we weren't, my whole college career, we weren't allowed to be over 300 pounds.
Wow. I echo the same thing. I mean, I don't know if it's on purpose or not, but I came in way heavier my freshman year than I was supposed to, man. And that was, you see that weight coach put them hands together. They like, yeah, I got somebody I can really work on every morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, that type of deal. So what was the thinking behind keeping all the linemen under 300 was so that y'all could be moved? Did they really like watch your diet there at Michigan? Like, how did they? Because usually it's the opposite. Once we get the lineman to a certain weight, once the season starts, we want those guys to eat, free feed, eat as much as you ain't really worried about it.
Yeah, I think they were worried about how well we moved, and once I got there, and basically once I got to Michigan, the most I ever came back home for was like maybe a week at a time, maybe spring break, maybe a week before we started summer workouts. So then I never really had an issue staying under 300 pounds anymore. So I ate well, but I think because we were doing so much, we were running so much, just lifting so much, I never really had a problem staying under 300 while I was there. So but to answer, part of your question, it was they believed in having linemen that were strong, but at the same time could move pretty well and get downfield and just do some of the different things we did in our offense.
Yeah, that shows the power of the group.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I'm sure if if we were to pull up Michigan's roster now, you wouldn't find a lineman under 300. It's just interesting how that sort of changed in the game of football. How was that different for you once you got into the NFL? Was the weight expectations different? Did they want you heavier? Or how'd you have to approach that?
Well, I guess I got another story. I'm thinking, I'm going to NFL now. I'll probably be able to be a little bit heavy and heavier, I should say. And then, I once again, one of my regrets about my time leading up to the draft is I wish I had stayed at Michigan and did my training there and things like that. But I decided to go to Houston with another former teammate of mine and work out there. So, we weren't working out like we should have been. So, when I went to the combine, I was 315. I ended up still running like my 40 was a 5 flat, but on the second 40, I pulled my groin. So, I still to this day kind of regret that because I feel like that I could have been drafted higher if I had just stayed in Michigan. I thought, hey, the NFL linemen are bigger and this and that, so they won't have a problem with it. So then I go to minicamp. I get drafted by the Jets. I go to the minicamp. First thing the O-line coach tells me is he wants me to lose about 10 to 15 pounds. So I ended up, my first, 10 years in the NFL, I couldn't be over 305. So I didn't get that much, weight gain. I wasn't allowed to gain that much weight. And still to this day, if you look at most of the bios, I think they have me listed like 315, 318, because I think it's 315 because that's what I weighed at the combine. But my weight for most of my career was 305.
And that's kind of like the misinformation that, like you said, like most people don't really see that. And that's something I definitely thought, can you be big, but can you move like that with that weight? Especially for like the guys who are a little bit more stouter, especially really within the trenches. It's about quickness and leverage, and every pound slows you down a little bit. So that's always interesting because kids always just equate being bigger with being a better football player, and that's not always not necessarily true, for sure.
And I realized, throughout my career, my game I wasn't going to be the guy knocking the big guy way off the ball with, that wasn't my game. So, I quickly realized that it was just, if I could get leverage on guys and have, good hand placement, then, I would be fine. I wasn't the guy that was going to knock people 4 or 5 yards off the ball, but I could move well and gain leverage and use my hands on people, and I could get the job done.
Yeah, that goes back to that self-scout, man. Just kind of like knowing, I'm not a vegan guy, man. I got to be a fishing whatever guy. Same thing. I think that's kind of like you said, the benefit when we can tap into it that helps us. So you say you waited a couple years after you enjoyed the retirement, like we all do. So this is another question. So when you were done playing football, were you done, or was it one of those deals where like you was done and they could kind of call you back so you still working out, trying to stay big?
Now I was done. My last year I got to go back to the Saints.
Okay.
And I remember I had a great training camp. I had one of the best training camps of my career, but then week 2 I had an arm injury and then played through it the next week, and then I rolled my ankle and then played through that the next week, which I had a history of doing, playing through stuff like that. Yeah. And then a couple weeks later I sprained my MCL, so then I had to sit out a couple games. And then we were playing Baltimore that year on Monday night, and it was still, close game, which, early on in my career, we get a blowout. If we were blowing somebody out or we were getting blown out, I would sit on the bench and I had a joke with John Stinchcomb where I would look at the clock and be like, tick, 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 tick. So this particular year, we're playing Baltimore my last year on Monday night. And like I said, it's a close game. And I'm looking at the clock and all I'm thinking to myself is tick, 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 tick. So I knew right then and there that I was kind of done with it. I think the injuries that year kind of weighed on me. And, being an older guy and then trying to get through lower body injuries, I think that wasn't fun. So I knew that year that was going to be, during that season that was going to be my last year. At the end of the year, my agent tried to talk me into, maybe you should go try to back up somewhere and this and that. But, I was tired of moving and, just ready to settle down. And, I think that's why, those first couple of years being out the game where I didn't really want to do nothing. It was just about enjoying the kids and work out. Like, what? Like that wasn't
the last thing you want to do. And it's funny because when you hear a story like a Marshall Yanda or I think Matt Burke was another guy, like right when he stopped, he made the commitment. He was like, man, I'm just going to treat it like an off season and just try to, because I'm already, I'm still in the flow a little bit. And that's one of the things, it's like swimming away from shore, man. You can't swim away too far because, some of us can't come back. It's just tough. And so that's always the interesting thing to ask guys, like, man, the psychology behind when do you really like want to attack it the same way? Because to your point, man, the last thing you want to do is like, man, have somebody, man, show up at 8 o'clock, 5 days a week, man. We just going to get this fat suit off of you. Like, even if you really wanted that, like to be in those schools or whatever. So Nashawn, you're one of your former teammates. One of his goals was he's like, man, I want to get down just so I can wear skinny jeans. You know what I'm saying? Not all the time, just sometimes. We know what type of character he is. What's a non-scale goal? What's the goal for you? Is it not the number? Is it to get those suits tailor-made? Is it to what I'm saying?
Well, I actually like all the suits that I did have. Like I recently had to go get a couple more. Right before things got shut down, I went and got a couple more suits because I went to go to some funerals and some things, and my suits were way too big. And I talked to a tailor about them, and the tailor said that it was such a drastic difference in the size that they wouldn't look good. So it was good to hear, but then you gotta spend some money to get a new suit. Yeah. So,
but it also puts you on the hook too because you don't want to go back now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
That's one thing. I threw away all my bigs. I was like, man, either you gonna fit it or that's not you no more. You got to throw it away because we always grow back into something big. My fault, Pete.
Yeah, but even with the suits, even after you lost the weight, what you said, you're still 275, so you're still not an average human being. So you still can't buy off the rack. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still got to get a new fitted suit because your body still is very different than the average human being, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree, but it feels a lot different now. Now there's sometimes I can go in a store and find a 2X, or there's been some brands where stuff fit. Well, I guess they're cut a little bit bigger. Where I've been able to buy some extra large stuff. So that's crazy. I've always been a guy that's been, even though I've being a bigger guy and had problems finding clothes, I still like to shop. So it's different now being able to go in some stores and find stuff that actually could fit. And that, it used to be a time where it made no sense to go try something on because you knew it wasn't going to fit. Now it makes a little bit more sense. And so, my goal is to, I would love to get like around 250. So, hopefully I can keep pushing towards that. And, but, I'm not like Nashawn. I'm not saying I'm doing it just so I can get the skinny jeans or anything like that.
You want the knees cut out of his jeans and stuff. Yeah. So your son, you said is 15. Is he going to try to be a skill guy? He going to be a lineman? What is he? Does he just not know it yet?
So he is a receiver and a safety. So I tell him all the time I can't really help coaching because I never played those positions. But I had a former coach, offensive line coach that works at I guess one of these recruiting things now they got these days, and he told me he thinks he's special. So we'll see. I try not to tell him these things so he doesn't get cocky or anything like that. Yeah. So I wanted to keep working, but everybody he, like I said, he's a receiver and a DB. So I could tell when he does some things that might be a little special, but I don't know for sure because I didn't play those positions. But I have people telling me all the time that they think he's legit and things like that. So we'll see. I hope they're right.
For sure. So he's always just, God given, he's going to be naturally bigger, more fitter, but does he have a need to want to gain weight? He's like, I see so-and-so plays safety and he's whatever, or does he have a need, or does he seem like he's, because again, there's such a big emphasis on guys feeling like just because I'm bigger, I'm better at football. And that's not always the case.
I don't think he feels that way. I haven't heard him talking about wanting to gain weight or anything, for the most part, I think he's been, growing at a decent rate as far as his weight. And, now he's starting to, lift weights and things like that. So, I think naturally, he's doing fine. And, he's got – he's pretty. I won't tell him this to his face, but he's pretty. He's got his little cuts and his little 6-pack and stuff. So I've never had a 6-pack. So
that's why we definitely can't tell him, man. We jealous, man. You can't get that from me. You got that from your mama, man. You get that 6-pack. Damn, that's what's up.
I got some. So one of the things we was talking about, just like eating, a lot of guys, we started looking at when it was that you really, really started, really, really got into eating. Some guys said it was when they was, when they were sad, or maybe they were going through some issues, or they were bored. Do you find yourself, is there any times when you found yourself overeating or just, compensating for eating in any possible ways?
I wouldn't say any particular times. Maybe sometimes late at night, just staying up too late and just then getting, just feeling like you got to eat again. I think that would be a time. And, I was kind of a weird eater because I remember even being in elementary school and wouldn't eat wouldn't eat the school lunch, but then go home and crush it. So, I think I kind of built up bad habits early in life, especially, because I've always been told now that, it's good for your metabolism to eat in the morning. Whereas I remember being in elementary school, not eating breakfast, not eating at school, and then waiting until I got home to eat. So, I think the biggest problem I've had, throughout my life is overeating, just not how many times a day I would eat, but just when I eat, I would just overeat. So I think that's been an issue for me. And that's something, once I started to lose weight, I tried to make sure I controlled, and I would get up in the morning, just maybe eat some fruit, sometimes some boiled eggs or anything like that. And sometimes a protein shake, and then just try to eat more times throughout the day but smaller portions.
Yeah, it's the portion control. I think the portion control is interesting because I always see my wife, she'll portion out a certain amount of chips, and I'm like, I don't understand how you can do that because I just don't have that ability to do that,
Yeah. She's portioning out chips where I know I could probably eat a whole bag of chips.
Easy.
So, yeah.
I do like my wife do and portion out the kids' portion. Just give here, this is yours. Take the rest of the bag and just give you that. Like you said, because I mean, that's a thing that we've kind of either the gift and the curse, or that's been trained into us. Like we just don't do a little bit of anything. You know what I'm saying? Like even when it came to like running sprints, you'd be like, all right, you run all 12, and then it'd be like, we got 4 more, and like even though you hate it, you like, man, I ain't all right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's the same way with the food. Like, well, you mean they all you could eat wings, and I'm only gonna have one? Man, bring out 2 more plates, man. I'm gonna just try them. Yeah. Just keep thugging through it. And like you said, after years of that, it just crushes you. You just can't do that no more. But I know for me personally, that's been the biggest thing. Is like when you stay away from the wrong stuff, and then you get the quality food and the rest, like just how easy it is to function. Like you can move this body around a lot easier. You know, the stresses and different things. And that's another thing too, is the stress reliever. Like, so do you feel like now the workouts, walking, cardio is more of like the stress reliever than, you know, when we were playing? That's the last thing you want to do is go work out, because you're like, man, I'm gonna go out in the field and play. You know, so now the actual working out is like the stress reliever for you now. Because like you said, you don't have to lift weights. You don't have to do that. It's more of like, Deshaun talked about, you know, his deal was getting those walks in where, to get the steps, but also just to like get my mind clear in the mornings and different things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it definitely is. And then, you know, most of the time I'm working out, I'm listening to music, and, you know, not sometimes rap, but sometimes it may just be R&B. So I do think it is, it does allow you to get away and, you know, relax your mind a little bit. And then, you know, I find a lot, you know, I feel like I've accomplished a lot when I finish a workout. Like it's like a huge motivational thing. I don't know how to exactly explain it, but, you know, I feel, I know when we play as players, you know, you felt accomplished, but it just, I don't know. Now it's just something different. I think as players, we knew we had to do it. Now we're doing it because we know it's important and it's vital for us.
Right, 100%. That's the other thing too, man. You didn't want to work so hard, making it so far up the mountain to you know, like you said, take yourself out the game, and you ain't get to enjoy them benefits, or, you know what I'm saying, them discounts and, you know, all of these shit. I paid into that program, man. I need to get it. So whatever the motivator is, whether it's your kids, you know what I'm saying, your blood levels, or just feeling better, looking better. I mean, everybody's not going to have the same motivators, but there's something in there that can really all get us going.
So going back to self-scouting. So we was asking some fellas this. So what's your weakness? What's the one, like, or not the thing, but what's the one thing that you're gonna have to struggle to keep yourself in check with as far as food is concerned?
I would think ice cream. Ice cream, you know. I think, you know, when I retired, and, you know, I always liked ice cream, but, you know, when I retired, you know, just having it in the house, it would be late night, like, go get ice cream. So, you know, I had to stop buying it and having it in the house. That way, you know, it made it tougher. You know, you can't have it. If it's not there, you can't eat it.
Yeah, because you feel bad. You're like, man, am I really gonna get in this car and go to the store? You know, like then you start thinking to yourself, like, I'm not doing that.
Now, sometimes the answer has been yes, I will get in the car and I will go up to that store. But a lot, like last night, it was like, nah. I had one of them little episodes. I was like, nah.
Yeah, it's definitely it's tougher, like you said, to say, I'm really about to go buy some ice cream, get out the house, and this and that. So, you know, I try to limit what I'm buying and bringing in the house, and that's been huge also.
Yeah, set yourself up for success. You played with a couple of different pro teams. We all got a spot, you know, it doesn't matter when you're traveling, you know, when you go to Atlanta, we got to go here and eat that. When I go to Charlotte, it's boom. Where's a spot in your old stomping ground, New Orleans, that you gotta go eat?
Man,
if you can have that free meal.
It's hard to go wrong in New Orleans, and, you know, it's been a couple places I just discovered. You know, the last couple times I've been to New Orleans, but, you know, while I was a player, you know, NOLA was always big. Dragos, you know, they would come to practice with the oysters, Yeah,
man.
yeah. So that was one of my favorites also.
What about the city, man? Because I got a theory. Like New York is good, but like it's always tough when you're living in like New York, New Jersey, like to be because it's not like the comfort food like we know. It's either going to be like a pasta, burger, pizza. What's the spot in New York, New Jersey?
Whew. Man, that's been so long ago. I gotta.
Is there the other thing is diners up there too, because those.
Oh yeah, now there was a diner in New York that we would go out and things like that. I think it was called Midnight Diner that we used to hit up a lot. That was really good, and they had really good breakfast food. So you're right, diners are huge in New York.
Yeah, that's one thing I kind of learned like in the Northeast myself. Like you can go in there and get whatever you want. You get some wings, you get an omelet.
Yep.
You be like, oh man. Damn, so getting close to the end, what's one thing you would eat if there was no repercussions, if there was no, you ain't gonna get sick, you ain't gonna gain no weight? Would it be the ice cream or
probably the ice cream.
What's your ice cream, man? What is it? Are you just a?
Yeah, I'm a big peanut butter guy. So some of the Reese's ones or some of the birthday cake ice creams. What else? I think it's Breyers. They got all types now. The Cinnabon one. So I could probably go on for days.
Snack technology is crazy, man. I stood there one day and looked at like all the different so they got the Bluebell with the stuff on top of it now. Like there's all type of. Then they make it clear now so you can see the insides of the ice creams and the layers of it. You can see I just been in there looking at it.
They got cake in ice cream now.
The technology is wild, man. Yeah, I love the ice cream, bro, but don't nothing put weight on Langston more like some damn ice cream, boy. You want me to gain 10 pounds fast, just let me just get a little bit.
Ice cream.
What it is, bro. That thing packed that weight on me hard. Stupid hard.
All right, so it's time for some lightning round fat questions. So we've been asking the fat boy questions. All right, which fast food restaurant has the best fries?
Arby's.
That's number 2.
Ooh.
Second Arby's. Okay. Okay. All right. Drums or flats?
Flats.
Okay. Blue cheese or ranch?
And truthfully, that's only come. To answer your question, Langston, ranch. But truthfully, my wife made me a flats guy. I'm
starting to turn myself. I used to be a drums guy. And I messed around, got the wrong order of flats one day, and I kind of see it now. I kind of get it.
Favorite candy bar?
Snickers.
Snickers, yeah. Oh, Snickers is almost undefeated. It's like perfect.
Oh, and like I told y'all a little while ago, I'm a peanut butter guy, so the Snickers peanut butter ones.
That's a new one. I hadn't tried that one yet.
Yeah, for some reason I'm a big peanut butter guy. So
man. Again.
Okay, so for the peanut butter, smooth or crunchy?
Smooth.
Okay, yeah. Now it's crazy because, you talk about growing up. I didn't even know there was a such thing as crunchy until I got to be an adult. I was like, oh man, I didn't even know they made this stuff.
Yeah, I can do the crunchy.
Okay, so smooth, okay. Do you have a favorite brand?
The Reese's, they have their own now. So I actually... And I'll usually add some peanut butter for protein and
real peanut butter,
a little bit of fatness, I guess.
I like it, man. And that's the other thing, and it's interesting. You mentioned that earlier about the ranch and garlic and just because a lot of times for us, it's not the sugar; it's just like the flavoring or the texture.
Yeah, exactly.
I need it grilled, and you put the spices on it. I'm good. I'll eat all the vegetables, and that's the wild thing. So, what's something that Jonathan Goodwin at this age in his life is eating that you never thought you'd be eating growing up? You'd be like, man, I never thought I would.
Okay, I made some the other night, Brussels sprouts.
Last night.
I would have never thought.
Never.
So how are you doing your Brussels sprouts? Are you just you putting them in the oven, roasting them?
sometimes I've done them just in the skillet and with a little bit of butter, and I know one night my wife put bacon in them, so that gave them a little bit of flavor, a little bit of cheat. But other times, you know, in the skillet and just with butter and some of the garlic and ranch seasoning.
Last night, Pete, balsamic Brussels sprouts, man. I did put a little bit of the bacon, got them a little charred first, and then hit it off with that balsamic, man. It takes it to a new level. I would
have never, ever believed that I'd be eating Brussels sprouts and enjoy it. You know, I really like them.
Yeah, that's definitely something, man. But yeah, that's the wild thing, man. Your preferences change, and you know, it's wild some of the things we heard from other guys, man. Quinoa and all type of crazy stuff. But man, this has been good, man. P, you got anything else?
No, I think we're good, man. So you say you're at 275 right now?
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. That's awesome.
Like I said,
awesome. That's the next stop on my train. I'm trying to
get. Do you have a cheat? Do you just go every day as the same day? Or are you a cheat day guy or a cheat meal guy?
For like 3 months straight, like when I first started this, I didn't cheat. But you know, now I may do like 1 or 2 days a week. But if I cheat, then I definitely got to work out that day.
Yeah.
I definitely got to work out that day.
Oh, it's a whole deal, man. I'm working out first. I'm lining my day up.
Yeah.
Get it together.
Yeah. So, but you know, like I said, I got a scale that stores my weight in my phone, but I had this particular scale before I started, you know, focusing on losing weight, and I went back, and you know, like I said, I'm 275 now. At one point, I was 360. So, you know, but the thing I didn't even, you know, I would have never known, because when I would go out and see people, they'd be like, "Oh, you look good. You look good. You look good," and then get on the scale and like 360. So
I think,
you know,
I think that's a really big thing, because, and I guess it's just because of our body types. You know, it takes a lot of weight for whatever your natural weight is for people to sort of, like you said, you was 360 and nobody really knew.
I had no idea. Yeah, they were telling me I look good, and then I get on.
And I'm sure if you told somebody, man, I was 360, they'd be like, "What?"
Yeah.
You know. I think that's a really interesting. I think that kind of keeps a lot of us from losing the weight too, because, you know, you don't look crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you see another human being walking around that's 360, and you like, dang,
ow.
Exactly. Wow. That's true. That's very true. Because again, y'all boys just carry it differently. Always been able to function with it differently. Get by. I mean, you know, the girls still gonna holler at you. You know, they still gonna, you know what I'm saying? Everybody, big man, you still look like you could go. You be like, yeah, a little bit. Fooling yourself, man.
So having your success, if you could, if there was somebody listening or somebody looking to sort of get from where you were to where you are now, if you could sort of line up maybe a couple of tips, maybe 3 tips that you gave that work for you, that might work for somebody.
I mean, the main thing is just you gotta. To start is tough. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and just act like it was easy. Mentally, when you first start, it's tough because you got to get in the habit, and then you got to see some progress. My advice would be to, you know, you got, like I said, you got to fight through the initial part, and once you start to see results, you know, trust me, you'll be motivated. So, you know, if you can get through the first 2 weeks, and then it becomes a little bit of a habit, and then once you start to see those results, man, it's a motivation like no other.
Yeah, I think that was that's been definitely my experience. You know, like once you see that number go down, then you're like, oh, okay, it's working. All right, I'm gonna really lock down now, like you said. But the biggest thing, like you said, and I guess maybe for myself, and it sounds like for you too, it can't be a thing where it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to do it in moderation. I'm going to, you know, here or there. Like, it's got to really be like drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is it.
Yeah. You got, and, you know, for me, it was, you know, health reasons that made me draw that line in the sand. And, you know, okay, I'm going to start next week or you know, I'm going to do one or 2 days. Like it's going to be hard to see results then. You got, like you said, you got to draw the line in the sand and commit and, you know, go from there.